Alright, people, don't know how to say this. How did we get here? That's like the only question. So the Star Wars franchise basically rebooted itself like with Force Awakens, basically under the new Disney canon. And we got the sequel trilogy and the new Disney Plus show, The Mandalorian, and the new Clone Wars series, Season 7. However, this like new introduction isn't Star Wars. At least in my eyes, isn't that much Star Wars. And like what they've done to the franchise, Disney itself, it just feels like they've just made it worse and distasteful. And I've really thought about this more often because, now since there's like a new season for the Clone Wars TV series, we have we have a new series, we have Ahsoka coming back, and we have like characters to actually start caring about. But now it feels all sort of different. It's like, a video game getting another developer in it, like a new developer developing this game, and I guess that's what's happened here. But like, changes are just bad beyond belief. So let's start with the movies. So the sequel trilogy, which was Force Awakens, Last Jedi, and Rise of Skywalker. Yeah, alright, let's move into it. So Force Awakens came out, and that was like well received by everybody. I mean, it was derivative of A New Hope, but it kind of went with a little bit of like Star Wars spirit. But then we got Last Jedi, and that was so bad. I don't even know how to say this. I guess that's also because, like, at this point, when you're, like, making a movie with a franchise that's huge, as in so many books, so many video games, so much to, like, describe this franchise, that when you make a movie that's, like, this disappointing, it's really disappointing to a fan base. I don't know how to describe it. It's just like, and it's also, there was a very big division on which fans were disappointed. If you were a long-running fan like me, who have read the books, read even Star Wars Legends, played the video games by BioWare, then you obviously can understand what I'm trying to say here. If you like are like a new Star Wars fan, then it might be complicated. Obviously, we all know that when George Lucas signed like an agreement that allowed authors to write about the Star Wars series, and we got so many amazing books like the Thrawn trilogy. We had so many books dwelling into so many characters. We had Darth Revan. We had Darth backstory on Darth Plagueis. We had so many books come out about many Star Wars characters in the Old Republic, the New Republic, Yuzong Vong. We had so many things. And so with this sort of knowledge, it's very much just comparing which one was the better story. And in it all, the Legends version it just sounds like a better thing. It sounds more Star Wars like than what the canon produced. And all, as a Star Wars fan, I do prefer Legends now over canon. That's kind of what I'm now into at this point, because canon itself has proven it's not falling into like what Star Wars should be. And I want to discuss that. We'll go through Last Jedi right now. So in Last Jedi, we start off with the opening scene where the rebels are, and the Resistance, technically they are the rebels, they're leaving the base, and what's happening is that the First Order intercepts them, and they bring this like dreadnought, and it has the power, I guess, like it has a super laser that can, I guess, just do like a single shot, like that shot that was made from the Death Star in Rogue One, by the Death Star, like on Jeddah City. I guess that's like its power. I guess my first criticism would be that was very much unnecessary. I guess they were trying to like they looked at the Eclipse, which is if you guys don't know about this, It's a ship in Star Wars Legends. It's in the Dark Empire. It's gonna be the flagship for Palpatine and his clone body. And it basically has a super laser that can destroy ships entirely and actually penetrate planetary shields, which ends up technically destroying the planet. And I guess this ship Dreadnought is supposed to be like the same thing. And we see Poe Dameron being a little rebellious. And this is where I started not liking the series. The introduction of this whole Poe goes against orders. Obviously, if you think about Poe is probably supposed to be the Han Solo of the series, but Han Solo was popular because he was this, how do I explain? He was a character that was like loved because of like how he acted. Like he always was like a criminal, like he was a smuggler and a mercenary, but at the same time he still had a heart and people loved him because he was like a character that like everyone like appreciated. He was funny, he was cocky at something. That was the attitude we liked. Poe doesn't have those. His character is very much just this bratish type, like I'm not listening to anybody and I'm going to do it all on my own type. And that itself, it doesn't really fit with what the situation was going. Because first of all, why are the rebel ships disobeying direct orders from a general? I mean, and anyways, a characterization of Poe was established in Force Awakens. It was that he was a really great pilot, and that he was just a really great pilot and all. He was like a hardcore like a resistance member, as in he did like special missions. And here we see him as just a captain who decides not to follow orders, be more rebellious. So in Force Awakens, you saw that. You saw some sort of like leader who can, who knows how to lead his squadron, and like, there's very much a contrast basically in the characterization that's shown in Force Awakens and Last Jedi. Also, the fall ends up being that there were different directors as well for each movie, so each director had a different vision. That, I would say, is the main problem with the entire sequel trilogy. They never had a clear out vision for the trilogy, and that's kind of what messed it up. But going back to criticism of Last Jedi, let's move on to Rey. How do I say this? So, Rey goes and finds Luke Skywalker, and I never have seen something so disappointing as what happened to Luke Skywalker. He's a guy who's basically abandoned the Force, abandoned the Jedi, just because he failed and he created Kylo Ren. And it's an understandable like plot. Hey, you get so upset at this point. Now you want to you want to now give up your legacy. That's understandable. Like that's a nice arc and it's a nice touch to it. I guess it was all the thing was that fans were expecting him to come back and join the Resistance, which was kind of what we were sort of expecting. I'm not saying the touch was bad, but it's an interesting, actually different touch. So I will praise Last Jedi for that. There's just a whole thing. We get this whole sign that Rey is now some, I guess, how should I say, all-powerful person. She has the light and dark side. They try to force this idea that instead of like giving it to you naturally, they try to force this idea that she's powerful instead of like giving to you in small bits and chunks so you can make that decision. It sort of is as if the movies is telling you Rey is powerful, final, and you're like, try to show me this, give it to me in small chunks so I can absorb it and figure it out myself. And they're trying to show how she's just like Anakin Skywalker, which I guess it's derivative then from Anakin Skywalker. Because, I mean, except it turns out to be on the light side anyways, but it's very much derivative of that part. And that kind of annoyed me because, like, You were saying someone who goes too much to the dark side but still is on the light side, and that just like messes it up. Moving on, Rose and Finn. So, yeah. The journey to Canto Blight was one of the most unnecessary parts of this movie. I very much hated that part. It was very much one of the worst parts of the movie. Well, not the worst, but one of the worst. Rose, as a character, was unnecessary. At all. Like, the series could exist without her. I mean, I can tell you, fans didn't really like her as well. And, yeah, she was just so unnecessary. The whole point going to Canto Blight and disobeying the Vice Admiral Holdo's orders. And also going back to, why didn't the Vice Admiral, I don't know, tell the crew that they're not going to die? Hey, we're going to a secret base out here, and we're trying to hide now. And at that point, if she said that maybe, I don't know, Poe would not go on this rampage, how did they slip past the Resistance watch? How did they steal a ship and were able to go to Canto Blight in the first place? That's a plot hole I would love to get answered. How did the Empire not detect a ship leaving the Resistance flagship and leaving? Like, how did they not detect that? Also, let's talk about why, why is the fleet of the Resistance so tiny? I mean, we're given this idea that the Resistance is pretty big. And, like, when the Star Killer base, they destroyed the New Republic, which was supporting the Resistance, we get this idea that at least the Resistance is pretty big. I mean, it should be at this point. I mean, it's just like the Rebel Alliance. There should be a bunch of, like, ships. But then we're shown it's like 3 ships tiny. Well, then it gets blasted down to like 1 ship tiny. And that just like boggled me, because like we have a tiny force of fighters that was able to take on the Star Killer base, and now we're shown how tiny it is. Yes, we have Poe Dameron who leads bombers, but do you expect that those are just a part of his squadron, that they should have enough, like, ships to get out? Like, they should have a pretty large fleet. Also, the next introduction, fuel. This was never a problem in the Star Wars franchise. Like, if you're gonna have an evacuation, first of all, wouldn't you have fueled up? Like, that's my first question. Like, if you are going to be hunting down an enemy, wouldn't you want to be able to escape from that person? And that was just another big plot hole. Why is it that there's a fuel shortage on this ship? I mean, without that, then obviously there's no story, but that means we get a whole new story that could have been 10 times better than what this was. And then we continue on with Rey going back to, because Luke is incompetent and will not help the Resistance because he's lost all hope. We have Rey going back and meeting up with Kylo Ren and meeting Snoke. Snoke is introduced as basically the Emperor Palpatine of the series. And I really wanted to like know more about Snoke, but then they decide to kill him. Hey, look, it's a twist, but it's not a twist that's good. That's the problem. Why is he killed? That's my question. Why did they kill off Snoke? I mean, he was such a mysterious character, and we get to know nothing about him. He was one of the most underdeveloped characters at all. in the entire franchise, he was just, we knew nothing about him basically. And then Rise of the Skywalker just like, nah, he's just created by Palpatine. That's it. Because they had nothing else to talk about. They couldn't say anything about Snoke's character. They just had to go on. Yeah, he was a nobody who was just supposed to rule an empire. Yeah, he was Supreme Leader. That was it. That's all we get from the canon about Snoke. We don't get anything more. And then we have like Kylo Ren. At this point, he's gone from very scary, evil person to guy who cries a lot. Because I don't know, if you've seen his face, it looks like he's gonna cry all the time. And we see a guy who, it was like meant to be like the Darth Vader of the series. And I guess he tries to be interesting. At some point, they try to make him be interesting, but then it all comes down boggling like, it's a nice mix of like him being like sometimes on light side because he was like considering shooting down the command center on the Resistance flagship, and he decided not to, and his subordinary TIE fighters did that and destroyed the command center of the flagship. And so we see there's like this conflict of light and dark with him, so that's a positive. But other than that, like, he just ditches the mask and just like turns more and more into like less away from his anger and more into moping. I guess that's what happens when you lost a literal planet-sized weapon that could destroy other planets and fleets. I mean, if that happens and then you get scarred, I guess that's like the consequence. You become a moping person. I guess the characterization for it was okay, I have to admit that. So, we're moving on to a plot where they're now on that ice planet. That battle, they could choose any planet. Technically it was Salt Planet, but I might as well just say it was Hoth. Like, they could have chosen any planet. Any planet. A desert planet. A forest planet. Anyone. They chose basically Hoth. I don't know what is it with this whole thing about being derivative of the original series. Look, Force Awakens, yes, it was derivative and all, but a little derivation wasn't that bad. It added some little mixing things, but yeah, it was derivative. But here, you can fix that. But no. Yes, it's at the ending, but still, it's a literal planet that's basically Hoth. And you still have like AT walkers. Technically, those aren't AT-AT. It's a different name. I'm not even gonna go through what their new name is. Like, it was like AT with like a number. And the battle itself, they take like these speedors that were like supposed to be back in like the Rebel days of the Rebel Alliance, and I feel like this is where it like fell apart and had a misfire. So Finn, he's introduced in Force Awakens as a stormtrooper who runs away from the war. And he's just trying to escape and avoid it all. But with the Resistance, he ends up learning to have to put the greater good above himself. And I guess that was supposed to be the character arc for him. And that would have had a nice ending to his character arc if he just died in Last Jedi. But no. Where did it come out to Rose saving him? I don't know how it came to that. We had what would have been a very nice ending to his character arc. One that would have made sense. Him going to sacrifice himself to save the Resistance, to put the greater good above himself. And no, he is saved by Rose, who tries to teach him that it's about saving other people when that was what he was doing. I mean, he wasn't on a revenge ride. You could say, yes, he was on a revenge ride, but at the same time, he's putting the greater good above himself. It's the same exact thing. And they could then hold the fort to that Resistance and also in turn destroy another random super weapon that the First Order somehow has. And yeah, that's like my last criticism. moving on to Rise of Skywalker, which had to deal with the faults of Last Jedi and also suck at the same time. Now with Rise of Skywalker, this movie felt like it was all over the place. It was like, here, one place, here, another place, here's another place. We defeated Palpatine. Palpatine returns, which I feel like if they introduced that in Last Jedi, makes sense. We already now know he's returning his stuff. He's revealed to be a clone of the original Palpatine. If you read the novel, he is a clone, which is also mentioned in Legends, that there's a Legends version, and their version of the future of the Star Wars saga, which is that Palpatine clones himself and creates his like dark empire and returns with the eclipse and that storyline. And I very much love that storyline over what canon introduced. But with Palpatine now, he created Snoke to rule as a person to rule his empire. I guess smart move. It just felt lackluster when they introduced it. It felt like they were just trying to make an excuse for Snoke being a character. Continuing on, we have Kylo Ren, who discovers him, and he's just now basically, he controls the First Order because Snoke is dead. And so, yeah, he has the First Order. He is the Supreme Leader. He goes to challenge anyone who is in his way. We have a new planet, Exegol, which is, I guess, has a Sith temple on it. Continuing on, Rey, Finn, and Poe. So they're supposed to be like this hero team up. Like Rey is the Luke Skywalker, Poe is the Han Solo, I guess Finn is the Leia, if that's how you want to go with it. And yeah, this is a very underwhelming movie. That's the correct term. What happens is that in Rise of Skywalker, they discover that Palpatine returned, and yeah, great. They're just like, hey, Palpatine returned, our fears are confirmed, yay. And there's that glum and blah moment, and they're now supposed to find like this Sith artifact that helps them find where Palpatine's location is, while Palpatine himself has his own secret final order that's created with Star Destroyers with a weapon of the Death Star. This, I don't know. How did he create this? I know Sith magic is like really can help you create anything when you're all that powerful, but like this felt like just out of place. Like he has hundreds of ships and they all have like a Death Star laser on them, and that just feels like out of place and doesn't even make any sense at all. Like I felt like if they cut off the Death Star lasers on them and just gave it that it's a new fleet of Star Destroyers to add on to your fleet, makes more sense. Obviously not that scary or anything, no more odds, but like still made more sense. So this movie decided to go down comedy route, which is basically now what the Hollywood industry is now going down to. They all want to be now more comedic, more funny, because that's what audiences like, and it's a pretty funny movie as such, so I'll give it that part. Continuing more. I don't even remember much of Rise of Skywalker at this point, because, it's not that movie you would remember as such. We have General Hux revealed to be a traitor in a part that makes zero sense. Like, why? Why would you help your enemy just to hit on the guy you hate so much? I mean, that part just made no sense. We have also this whole thing where Rey and Kylo have a connection. Like, that part, like, to be able to, first of all, grab things anywhere in the universe, that was like, I guess it's like new force powers, but it just doesn't feel all that right in the franchise itself. And the whole thing where they have this like force connection that was first of all supposedly created by Snoke, which was technically then created by Palpatine. That all shows like how powerful I guess Palpatine was, how he was able to manipulate things, bring back the whole Clone Wars sort of scenario. But in here it just feels a little distasteful, the whole thing. I'm not even gonna say hashtag Raylo on Twitter. I don't know why people are in this outrage where Rey and Kylo Ren should have been a thing. That just sounds so bad. I don't know why they introduced that in the first place. I don't know why that was a thing. I mean, I guess they did because, like, the whole, Kylo Ren is sort of to the light and he could be redeemed. And then he sacrificed himself just to save the person he loves, and yeah, wow, Romeo Juliet sort of thing. And it's not Romeo and Juliet, but still, it's some random love story. Definitely wasn't what this franchise needed. And we get the reveal Rey is Palpatine's granddaughter. Okay, that was just, I don't know how to react to that. Rey being Palpatine's granddaughter just doesn't seem right. Like, Palpatine was ruling a galaxy. When did he have the time? I think you all know what I'm trying to say. When did he have the time to make children? Obviously, he could, when did he get the time, first of all, to also raise them? Why is it that his children end up being rebellious? I know, like, in the old Sith Order, if you go back to, like, Lord Vitiate's time, Darth Vitiate or Valkorion, his children were rebellious against them. If you go back to reconstitute the Empire before the Eternal Alliance invades. And if for any of you who don't know, this is Star Wars Legends again in the MMORPG Star Wars The Old Republic. This is the past where there's this emperor named Emperor Vitiate. He has these people called the Children of the Emperor, and they're basically like supposed to be like infiltrators. And he has this one, Kira Carson, who's supposed to like infiltrate basically the Jedi and stuff. So I guess this is sort of the same thing, but like, those were under his control. Who knew that he had children that were able to hide from him, to avoid him? This does not feel right at all. Anyway, Rise of Skywalker was messed up. The part where he goes like, I am all the Sith. It angered me. I mean, I can't really say much because, like, I love Legends, so obviously I do not consider that the truth, because no, you're not the Sith. I'm pretty sure Darth Endedu gets that title, that he's all the Sith. Either Lord. Might be hard to judge. Marco Ragnos, Darth Endedu, one of the other, gets that title. You, Palpatine, are definitely not. You come off the rule of two. You're an idiot who doesn't deserve that title. Yeah, because you're not that powerful compared to those Sith Lords. Yeah, I prefer older Sith Lords over there. And then Rey going like, I am all the Jedi. And at this point, yeah, you have to accept she is all the Jedi. Because, like, she's supposed to be now this all-powerful being. Yeah, that was an annoying part as well. Both are supposed to be all-powerful gods going against each other. Continuing on, now we go to Mandalorian. Mandalorian's a really nice series. Like, I gotta admit, it's a nice turn away from what was the misfire of the sequel trilogy. And we had a nice series. Obviously there was some the episode 5 and 6 were not good, because, like, I don't know how people somehow liked this, but, like, when you're creating an episode, when you have characters in it, you want to have characters that have a lasting impression. In 5 and 6, episode 5 and 6, there were no characters that gave you a lasting impression. They were just characters done. And, like, the episode 6 was, like, so episode 6 was supposed to be an episode that basically shows like it shows like the Mandalorian's past, but then we just get like a short thing. If we want to explore Mandalorian's past, I'm pretty sure then dwell into it. It would take like 2 episodes to dwell into that. But anyways, the series is actually pretty nice. It's refreshing. We get Baby Yoda, which I hope Disney actually utilizes wisely. They have a franchise. They have a character that's really beloved, and they better take care of it and do well with it. So, I guess good luck on that. Now let's go to how there's like new episode, the new series of Star Wars, the new Clone Wars season 7. So the first 4 episodes start off with the Bad Batch storyline, where we have this planet Anaxis, which is it's basically being fought over between the Republic and Separatists. The Republic shipyard, it's a Republic shipyard, and obviously you would want to take control of it because you would be able to amass a bigger fee, being able to destroy your enemy, obviously. So the Separatists are making really great grounds, and the way they're doing this is because they're receiving strategies from Echo, who's revealed to be alive. If you guys watch the series, you remember Echo was supposedly died on the Citadel, which I feel like that bomb blast pretty much killed him. But, I mean, he's back, and I'm not going to check. I could be wrong. Anyone can survive a bomb blast at that point. So he could have just basically survived, and yeah, they abandoned him on the Citadel. He was captured, he was taken in, his mind was used, and in it, there were so many Republic strategies. In this 4 episodes, it really focused on the clones of the Clone Wars, and I like that part. That's a really nice touch to it. We introduced the Bad Batch. Now, the Bad Batch are good and bad additions to the series. Good, and we see something different from clones itself. We see a new type of clone. These are I would say they're clone commandos, really. The clone commandos and legends are just like special clone units, and this was what Clone Force 99 or the Bad Batch appeared to be. But I feel like they're made too all-powerful. 100% success rate, obviously you could expect that, but at this point, then there aren't any risks. There isn't really feel of like adventure in it. There isn't really like risk taking that's done, because you already know these characters are gonna make it out alive. And also has to do with the part where the dialogue has become a little too kid friendly, because the dialogue, the storylines in the Clone Wars series used to be more adult. Sorry about that, my voice is just bad. They used to be more adultish, and now they're just toning it down to being more kid friendly, and I guess that's just like a different change in the tone, and that's obviously not really something great. But continuing on, so we have like a characterization with Rex. Really, the series is focusing on Rex, as like was mentioned by Disney itself. So it's really about how Rex deals with like losing most of his friends, because if you all remember, it was like the big group was really Echo, Fives, and Cody and Rex. Those were like one of the best characters. Those are the characters people really remembered, and now we only have Rex and Cody, who are the survivors. And continuing on with that, we basically are now left with Rex like dealing with guilt, and how it explores how like the clones are now like right now just like grieving about how much they've suffered through this war. Because if you all know, the clones were basically the slave army of the Republic. It was a common criticism by the Separatists that the Separatists were being more humane by using battle droids instead of clones, who were basically slaves to the Republic. continuing on in the series, the whole point is to rescue Echo from the Separatist hand, and so the Bad Batch proves to be just too powerful. Literally, I mean, they go invade, infiltrate, they do an infiltration mission and take back, and not take back, they just like infiltrate, what was it again, command center. It was one command center. It was basically like taking transmissions. It was just strategic command center where they receive battle strategies. And you would think, wouldn't that be like more well guarded? Because it's where you're receiving your strategies. And apparently, no, anyone can walk in. I guess because the Bad Batch was supposed to be superior clones themselves. Regular clones could never get past that. And the Bad Batch seemed to have to. And so, moving on, we basically then have them going to another planet, forgot where the Techno Union is, and they're basically, now, they have, that's where Echo is held, and so they go there to go rescue Echo, and they successfully do it. They infiltrate, and they get out, barely, which then also then shows that Bad Batch are not that powerful. And that's nice. I feel like Wrecker, that guy, he's just like made there for like comedic relief, like Jar Jar. He's supposed to appeal to kids, because I didn't really like him. Like the other Bad Batch members, like Hunt. What was the guy's name? It was Hunter. I don't know. Hunter. Yeah, I think that was his name. He was the leader, and he's a nice character overall. Like he's just like supposed to be the leader, and he's more or less the I'm there character. Tech is supposed to be really good at gadgets and stuff. He just is also pretty smart, strategic. Obviously, the guy who like can do all the fancy, savvy stuff. And we have what is his name again? I can't even remember. And that's how poorly written these characters are at this point. It was the guy with the bullseye. I don't know who's the sniper. Like these characters weren't really that big or anything memorable as other characters in the series are. Like this isn't a series that you would a season you'd probably remember at this point. Like they don't really dwell into these characters. They're just like, here you go, characters. They don't dwell into them like previous Clone Wars seasons did. And that's just what really hurts now in the Star Wars franchise. They're not doing that. They're now moving away from dwelling into characters. They're just sticking with just plain old presenting old characters. You better like them, sort of thing. We like them because we dwelled into them. We got to know more about them. Here we're not really given much characterization in the character arc. Like we saw that, and then we get some characterization in Rex. He's just on this. He's grieving at this point, but then that's it. Here you go. Continuing on, we have basically they rescue Echo. Echo is revealed to he's alive, but like he has all the separatist plans in his database, which makes you think, okay, now they can win the war. Wow, Revenge of the Sith is a lie at this point. Because it feels that way. If he has like all the separatist tactics and strategies, they clearly have a chance to win this war. And they were actually in Revenge of the Sith actually close to winning the war. Because they were pushing the separatists back in Revenge of the Sith, if you do remember. And in any case, moving on, so with the end of that, we have Echo return, and then they decide to go out and, they decide to go take out Admiral Trench, who's in a separatist warship. They infiltrated, they somehow managed to also kill him. I can see where it's like infiltration, and they go, and then they eliminate the leader of the fleet, and, I mean, it's shocking, but do remember, like, there was a small rebel fleet going in the Battle of Endor who defeated the big empire who had plenty of ships, not to mention the Executor, and were beating out the Rebel Alliance. Do remember, the Empire vastly outnumbered the Republic. It was like a definite trap. There was supposed to be no way that these guys could have won. But they did, and so I guess that's kind of what's happening here. It's like Return of the Jedi. The guys won. They killed the leader, they were able to help take back Anaxis, which fell back into Republic hands. So great. And then we also get a small characterization of Echo, which I did not see coming. So good job, Star Wars. You gave me something I did not see coming. And it was whole we focused on Echo now that he's out of captivity, but he's different from what he was. He now has a lot of separatist information, and then he can go back to being a clone, or he can go join the Bad Batch, which is a group of irregular people. They're not supposed to be like regular clones, and Echo is now not a regular clone like Rex. And so he's given this choice, and he chooses to join the Bad Batch because of how they are different like him. They're unique. And so he chooses to join them, and that's a characterization I very much like and please. Then we get the 5th episode of Star Wars. The 5th episode of the season 7. Did not like the episode at all. We see Ahsoka Tano return, and just like the previous 4 episodes, it's like, characters, here you go, like them. So we see Ahsoka Tano, like, she comes into level 1313, if you all remember. Those are like the lower levels of Coruscant. So she's going down, and she lands on that platform where there's Trace and her sister Rafa. It's a platform owned by those 2 sisters, and those characters are very much irrelevant. I don't even care about them at all. If they died, they died. I don't care. I mean, Ahsoka's a fan favorite, but this episode just felt mediocre. I've seen people in YouTube comments, like, when people called out that it was mediocre, like, how they were just like, Ahsoka's character arc, it's still being built up. Wait for the other 3 episodes, but it's Disney running it. I don't have really much faith anymore. They messed up, first of all, the sequel trilogy. They made a pretty good live-action series. But at this point, I don't know how I should react to this. This episode just felt distasteful. We see her starting her life as outside the Jedi Temple. We see her learn that about the problems and how people in the lower levels of Coruscant don't actually like the Jedi, which surprises her. I really wanted that to be explored, hopefully, in this episode. When I saw that come out, I was like, please explore this concept. Please explore this. Unfortunately, they sort of leave it out to they leave it to a whole feud between the sisters and how their lifestyle is, and how one sister just wants it to change to be more noble, and one just wants to get enough money so that they can leave. And it just wasn't a great episode. And that's how I'll leave it on. And it was quite disappointing, really. I was hoping for a good season 7, but I just don't think that's what we're gonna get. People say it will get better. It will get better. Like when? What? Last episode of the series? The previous Clone Wars seasons did well. Why? Because they had characters that you can remember. Because they had a story you liked. Because everything, first of all, made sense. Everything felt great. Everything, it had themes. Also, it wasn't trying to be kid-friendly like Disney for some reason is trying to be. That also is, I guess, another factor of what's ruining now Disney Star Wars at this point. It's trying to be more kid-friendly than what Clone Wars was. Clone Wars was supposed to be about, you might even cringe when I say this, socioeconomic, political, everything basically that was happening in the Star Wars universe. It had so much, like, I guess, things that adults talk about today. It's just like, was about everything. It was about the Clone Wars. this doesn't feel that way. This just the previous seasons explored what was happening. This just feels like kid friendliness mania, and it's not. I don't like it at this point. It's moving too far away from what the original seasons brought, and it's upsetting me because of it. Like, and upsetting also many Star Wars fans. I can tell because you've heard many Star Wars fans on Twitter, on anywhere you can go, you can see a division of the fan base. There's those of us like me who have read the Legends, who basically are devoted into Star Wars. And then you have the new fans who probably just only watch the canon versions. And that division is quite what is causing this whole debate. There's those of you who are sort of new, and the sequel trilogy was your first Star Wars movie endeavor into the franchise, and you're I support it all the way. I support the new season of the Clone Wars series, and yeah, but if you actually decide to try watching or reading the books later on, then you'll find that they were actually way better. They have better writing. They just are better in general than what Disney has made. And I guess my criticisms come off the fact that this series is now becoming worse than what Legends produced out. And in the whole Legends thing, yes, Palpatine returns, but his return is cleared out in the first book. He returned in a clone body. He has multiple of those bodies, and he wages war with his dark empire, and there's this new republic that's forming up. I'm about to lose my voice. The stories that are brought from the Legends version are just amazing. It's you're dwelling into different characters, you're dwelling into different people, and these are people you remember more. And because also Disney's trying to be kid friendly, and you're given a sequel trilogy that just sucks to the brim, and you're just given really bad writing, bad characters, nothing you can remember. You were given dullness from Disney when you were given something amazing in Legends, in the books and everything. And I just feel I guess the main part is if Disney wants to fix the franchise, learn from what made Legends so popular, and when you want to insert it into your canon, just how should I say this? Just make better characters. First of all, if you're gonna make a sequel trilogy, which I know you will, but you're Disney, what else are you gonna do? Number one, have the same director with a clear vision for all 3 movies ready to go before you start making the movies. If that director does not have a clear vision, your series will fail, and it will fail bad. And if the vision does not follow Star Wars bylaws, which is basically does not follow what is said in lore, which is what is said and introduced in basically other Star Wars canon movies, and also sometimes in the Legends Old Republic story stuff, then you already have a failing Star Wars movie at this point. And you're going to have a fan base that's ripped apart, because it pretty much is at this point. It's just 2 sides, one that prefers the canon, one that prefers the Legends, and the older version is being the one that prefers the Legends, like me, people like me. And yeah, and that's not what anyone wants. We don't want to see a ripple in the fan base, but that's basically now what's happening because of the idiocy of Disney, and how they've also then decided to make it kid friendly. And I guess that's what's just ruining the franchise and sending it to its knees. And soon enough, it just will need to be done on life support. So I'm going to end this very long rant about Star Wars and the sequel trilogy and what Disney is doing with it. Hope you all are having a fun time now, since you all are now trapped in your homes. Chrono. Can't mention that. It's a YouTube video. Alright, hope you're all doing well. Goodbye.